What do you get when you mix blues, blood, vampires, and a juke joints full of spirits? Today, we dive deep into Sinners, and we're not holding anything back. Welcome back to another episode of Black Film Talk. I'm your host, Lavelle Revels, and to see more videos like this one, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Today, I'm joined with the icon in the making, Michaela Boyd, in the building today. What's going on, Michaela?
Hey, I am super excited to talk about this one. Probably the most excited I've been to talk about a movie in a while.
Oh, for real?
Mm-hmm.
Well, full spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen this film, go watch it. I'm not even gonna give you a countdown, anything like that. If you haven't watched the movie, go watch it and come back. Put this on pause now. Go watch it as soon as you can and come right back to the video. All right? So let's go ahead and let's dive deep. I'll give you guys a roadmap of what's going on today. So in this review, we will give our first impressions, then dive deep into the plot summary of the movie, and then go give that to you play by play, and then we'll give our takes on it. Sound good, Michaela?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so first impressions. Was it what you expected? Did anything completely catch you off guard or anything like that?
It was not what I expected. So I knew like it's supposed to be a horror movie. I knew that we were going to be dealing with vampires, and I knew that we were, set in like 1930s South. But I don't know. This is like nothing I've ever seen before. So when I went in thinking, I was going to see, this 1930s vampire movie, it really surprised me that it was just so much more than that. Like, I was surprised, number one, I thought that it was one Michael B. Jordan. They were twins. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I just thought he was switching outfits and stuff. That's the first thing I did not pick up on.
Hold on, like in the trailer or
yes, in the trailer. I really thought it was just one.
How did you not pick up on it?
I didn't pick up on it. I was a little slow, but it's okay.
That's crazy.
So I see his twins, and I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. All right, we're just gonna go with it. And I knew like Haley Steinfeld was gonna be in this. I love Haley. I did not think she was gonna be like that. Like she was like fiery. She was passionate, and I really liked the character that she played. Yeah. I thought also I did not know that Miles Catan, I think it's pronounced, that his character would play such a big role in it. And he came out and he did the dang thing. Like, he was amazing, especially for this to be like his first really big film. Yeah. I think what also surprised me was how much history that it was showing. Like, in the opening monologue, we'll get to that, just the things they were talking about. It made me really go back and research some of these things and be like, wow, I didn't know this. Or, oh, okay, this is like, they're not just pulling this out of their butts. Like, this is based off of folklore and just so many different things.
Man, that opening monologue. So I'm mad. I want to go see it in IMAX, right? And so I went to AMC, and when they showed that opening monologue, they still had the lights on. So I'm like, that kind of like took me out of it a little bit. So I'm like, I'm focusing like, yo, who gonna turn the lights on? You know what I mean? I pulled my phone out and everything. Like, all right, I ain't trying to leave because I know I want to do a review. But I pulled my phone out, and then once I was about to call, like, they turned the lights off. And then once they got done with the opening monologue, they went into the church scene. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I probably, how sometimes films are like, they give you opening monologue, but then you can catch on through the movie. Yeah. And it makes it make sense. But like, I figured out like, man, like in order for me to make sense of the movie, I had to pay attention to that. You know what I mean? Because it probably answered more questions, my questions that I had about it. So I was kind of like disappointed with that one there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like how you said, Haley Steinfeld as Mary, man, I didn't know she had so much swag in her bag on that one, man. Like, I was like, hey, she
has never played a role that I've seen with her being like that. And I was just like, oh, okay then, Haley.
Yeah, because I'm used to seeing her. I saw her in the I was gonna call it Arrow, the Hawkeye series.
Yes, she was in that. I was first introduced to her in Pitch Perfect 2. And just both of those characters was nothing like this one.
Yeah. So shout out to Haley on that one, man. Definitely. I thought she was light skinned. You asked me. You could have fooled me. I was like, oh yeah.
She came in with that thick country accent. I was like, ooh, who's this?
Right. So, what hit you the hardest in this movie? Would you say?
So, I would say the hardest thing that would hit me was probably going to be either Smoke's death or Annie's death. It's one of those two.
I told you, don't be stealing my stuff.
No,
man.
but I think that's gonna hit everybody. 1 second, you know, they having their intimate moment. The next
Stealing
second,
my notes.
the next second he's dead, and it's like, ooh, okay, what are we doing here? But also Annie's death, like. I knew that not everybody could possibly make it out alive, but just watching her after, and it's like, to me, it's not just her death, but this is like one of the last deaths for, or we said, I'm sorry, I've been Smoke and Stack. Okay, let me preface it. There's twins, Smoke and Stack.
Yep.
Okay, so for me, Stack's death is what I meant, not Smoke. So Stack's death, when he's like with Haley, and essentially he dies there, was like, whoa, like I knew she was a vampire and she came in, but that was a brutal death. Like he was having a great moment and he did not get a happy ending. And for me, that death was kind of like surprise. Seeing Smoke like sit there over his body like in shock, that really hit hard. But also when we go to, I didn't cry. It takes a lot to make me cry. But when we go to Annie's death, that's another death that affects Smoke. And so seeing his baby's dead, his brother, you know, is a vampire trying to kill everybody. And also now, you know, the woman that he loves is dead. It feels like everything's been taken from him. And this is the last moment. And not only is Annie dead, he has to re-kill her because she's a vampire, right? So that really was hard to watch because I was just like, he's literally losing everything. So those were my two hardest moments.
Yeah. Mine's is Smoke dying. Thank you. Yeah, man. I mean, like, I didn't like the way I went out.
Really?
Personally. Nah. Like, I like that
not?
because, man, like, he already, like, I know he was outnumbered, but, you know, he was already ahead of the game. And on top of that, he could have just left. You know, took the L, been on his way. But it's just like, yo, I got to get my get back. And I understand that, but then I ain't want him to end up dying at the end.
I think for me, I understand that I think he wanted to be at peace. And I think for him, he knew this was like a suicidal mission. He knew he was going into an impossible battle. It would have been unrealistic for this man to survive because they came with a bunch of clan members, you know, ready to shoot up the place. And he took all of them out, but he did need to be wounded or something for it to be realistic.
Okay, I just thought of something. So if he made that deal with Stack, why wouldn't he just say, hey, Stack, you know, when it hit nighttime, go ahead and do your thing. You know what I mean?
I mean, you already asked him for one deal. Stay away from Preacher Boy. I think asking for 2 deals would have been kind of a lot.
You think so?
I think so, because it's like, look, I ain't going to kill you, but stay away from Preacher Boy and come kill these white supremacists with me real quick. It would have been a lot. I think he just said, you know what? I'm going to go out on my own terms. I'm going to let my brother be at peace. And I'm going to just make sure that for Sammy's future, you know, this guy never comes after him again.
All right. So some people are calling it a supernatural drama. Some people call it a black Southern, black Southern Gothic historical horror. Would you consider this like a genre blend, or what would you classify
this is definitely a genre blend, and it's done very right. It has elements of horror. It has elements of, like we said, you know, kind of drama, kind of, I've heard people say it's kind of a noir, which I could agree with that too. Like, I've seen people call it crime. I know, right? But I think it's a horror blend of a bunch of different things. And I think it's done so well that's why we're having these conversations of like what to classify it as. If it was to go to the Oscars, which we know it won't, but it should.
Hold on. You don't think it will?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
We know
Hold on. Yeah, come on, talk on it. Like, don't hold back.
We know that when a movie does not fit into drama or a coming of age or a biopic, it is not usually picked for the Oscars. It's not. Usually if it's horror, it's never usually picked for the Oscars. But to take horror and to take a minority film and say, here, Oscars, they're not going to do anything with this. I hope they prove me wrong. But I would be willing to bet a lot of money this is not going to get nominated for anything besides maybe clothes or maybe makeup or special effects or something like that. Even superhero movies, they're done really well. They don't usually get nominated for many things, quite honestly. I mean, look at Angela Bassett. We know what she deserved, and she was honestly lucky to get nominated with them because we know how they act. Now, maybe since they're required to actually watch the movies this year before voting, that might change it. I don't know. But it got to get nominated first.
Okay. Hey, I'll take on that bet, though.
All right,
I
we can
think
go
get
on that bet.
nominated for either best screenplay,
Mm-hmm.
best actor,
Okay.
best director, and best picture.
I don't think it'll do any of those besides maybe screenplay. So I will take you on that.
Okay. Yeah, icy.
All right. We will be back in, what is it, December when they release nominations?
Like January.
December, January. We'll be back.
Yeah.
And we'll play this clip.
Yeah. So like, so how many ices we bet?
I don't know. What do you lead? It's your show.
I don't know, man. I don't know how I want to do it. I say 5.
5?
Yeah.
All right,
So
let's
every
do
time we do our meetups or anything, I want an icy.
All right, bet.
All
5
right.
ices.
5 ices.
I like my ices from Sonic, or I like the special
Sonic?
ones. Yeah, Sonic, my Route 44,
Hold
Blue
on.
Raspberry, or Cherry Limeade. And I also like UDF. If you go there though,
Okay, I can do
you gotta
UDF.
get like the ones on the side, not the ones you be getting. Get the ones that come in the special little one. They're like more of a Slurpee. I'll show you. Okay.
I know what you're talking about. But
You
they don't
would
ever
know.
have
You
those.
there every day.
They don't they don't ever have those made though. They
That's
rarely
the
have
problem.
them
I
made.
be getting mad because they
Yeah.
had this black cherry flavor. We off topic.
I
But
know.
let's get back.
All right, let's circle back. We could talk off camera on that. Okay. So I was gonna ask you, so for the plot summary, so did you catch that opening scene? So the opening scene, let me know if I'm wrong. But the opening monologue of the movie centers discuss how music can transcend time and space until uniting people with their ancestors and descendants. Specifically, it highlights music's power to pierce the veil between life and death.
That's correct. And I actually did some research on this. So
Oh, you did research?
I did. Like I was very invested when I
Okay.
learned about this. I was like, is this
Teach me
real?
something.
Did you pull this like
Yeah.
out of the thin air, out of your mind? But this is actually real. So like what African Americans, specifically in West Africa, what it seems like they called them is pronounced griots, I think. It's like GRIOTS. And essentially it is about, kind of Black people who are essentially making music that kind of tells stories over generations and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the difference that he kind of did was adding that it can pierce that veil. But, usually it looks like from my research what what griots would do is like make music or make certain types of art or poetry that would tell stories, from generations ago. And each generation would kind of build and add on to it to keep it culturally relevant. I still need to do...
What's a griot?
That's like what they're talking about in the films. Essentially, so like Sammy, Preacher Boy, he's the griot. So he's like the one that, played the music that was so powerful that it pierced the veil. So he would be...
was it his guitar or was it him?
It was him himself.
So how did he become a griot?
I think you're just born with it. Like how he's born naturally gifted to sing. He's just born with a voice, a soul, rhythm that strongly. And even when you think about the meaning of like griot, when I was doing the research, like him, when he was singing the song about his father, where he's like, I want to pursue this type of music and you don't really understand, that is, what that's doing. So I think it's truly within him.
So how many griots do you think are born? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, like in the movie world, or it's a slightly different.
So do you believe in the griots? After doing research, do you believe that aspect exists today?
Well, that definitely exists because I mean, when you think about like just musicians in general who are like making music and telling stories, and adding on to that, we know with like Negro spirituals, slave hymns, that's what that was doing. And I feel like when you think of rhythm and blues, they were telling stories, especially when it first started in the 1930s. So that stuff definitely exists. Now, when you take the horror elements of it and say, can it pierce, life and death, I'm going to say I don't think that's possible just yet because I think we would have pierced it a lot by now with some of the stuff we be singing about. But I like the way that this film takes that on.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the opening. Sammy returns to church. So the film opens in a somber, emotional tone with Sammy stumbling into his father's church. He's physically battered, emotionally broken and spiritually conflicted, clutching the severe neck of his guitar. Sammy is a man seeking redemption. So this moment tells us something tragic and something violent has occurred. The severe guitar, his tool of expression, symbolizes both trauma and transformation. His father, a devout pastor, sees this moment as a moment of repentance, but Sammy's intentions aren't very clear yet. So this is the day before the events taking place. So what did you think about this scene here?
So this was a scene that cuts right to the point, and I like that when we start with films. Like, we see this man, he looks like he's been through it. He got a cut all up his face, and that's one of the first things I noticed. And to go back the day before and not see it there, I'm like, okay, he's gonna get this scar this night in some traumatic way. But also, I thought he was about to kill the preacher. I was like, oh, is he about to like hit him with this guitar? Like, I'm confused. So it definitely intrigued me from that very moment.
Right, yeah, I thought the same thing because he was walking up slow and it was kind of like menacing in a way, the way he was approaching. It wasn't looking too good for him because it kind of was like, you see your son and he looked like he almost died and you still like, saying this is your moment of repentance and all this, and you know what I mean? You're not consoling him like you should. Like usually any typical father would console their son in that type of situation, but he's more like, in a way, scolding him a little bit, like, aha, I told you so. I told you.
He really
now come back to me. Yeah. So let's jump into, so we go to the flashback. So this is the day before. So Smoke and Stack return to home. We jump back a day to see how all begins in 1932. The twins, Smoke and Stack, return to Mississippi, Delta, after a long stint working for Chicago gangsters. They are stylish. It's very clear not if they're like troublesome guys, but they look very smooth, slick. They brought back stolen mob money to start a new life. They purchased a rundown sawmill from Hogwood, racist and a dangerous local landlord, which, you can tell that he was, you know what I mean?
He said boys or boy. Right. And I was like, I know where we're going with this.
All right, so they had plans to convert the building to a juke joint, space for Black folks to celebrate, dance, and forget their plans. Their arrival is bold, disruptive, and full of promise for the community, but also invites danger. So, what did you think about this particular scene right here?
So I'm going to go to when we first are seeing like Smoke and Stack. Okay. And they are passing a cigarette or a cigar to each other. That scene was so cool. Like, it was so cinematically perfect that I was like, I'm going to have to emulate that and like see if I can do that.
So what was about that made it cool though?
Number one, there's only one Michael B. Jordan. But the way they was passing that cigarette, it really was like, there's two Michael B. Jordans. Like, he has a twin. He's always had a twin. Right. And the choreography of the way the camera was moving while they're passing the cigarettes and they're like establishing, they're twins, but they got slightly different personalities.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting just to see that shot, like how it stacked up. I'm excited to go back and see it like in IMAX because I saw it in the standard one and I'm like, that just looks really, really well done.
Yeah. So, like, with this particular scene right here, how do you think they shot that? Do you think they put a clean plate in there and then threw in another Michael B. Jordan? Or do you think it was, like, CGI? How do you think they
I think a mixture of CGI, but also a body double. So somebody in similar height and weight as him that can be there so that when you're doing the coordination of passing off, like, the cigarette, that it works. Because just doing that by yourself would probably be awkward. So I think somebody has to be there. Yeah. But they can't be, like, so if he's 6 foot, they can't be 5 foot. That's not gonna, they gotta be similar height. And then I think they CGI like Michael Jordan in.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. Sorry. I think it would be hard. Like, there's another way to do it. Of course, you could take one video of one twin and then do the other and splice them together. I just think that would be very hard to do, but who knows? They might have chose the hard way.
Said Michael Jordan like we was watching Space Jam or something.
Yes, because Michael Jordan is coming back to act in a horror film.
All right, so gathering the team and family tension. Smoke and Stack split up to recruit the crew that they need. So Sammy, The younger cousin dreams of being a blues guitarist and eagerly wants to join them, despite the strong opposition from their father, who believes blue music is the devil's music and warns that it invites supernatural forces. This sets up Sammy's internal battle between spiritual upbringing and artistic calling. So, meanwhile, let's talk about that. So, how did you feel about that part where they come pick up Sammy and he's like, hey, we'll have him back to you. You know what I mean? So, how did you feel about that scene?
So I'll say the first scene when they kind of pick him up, it's like, oh, this is, cute. They're taking their little cousin in with them.
Yeah.
This is a nice little family moment. It establishes who they are. They may look like what people might call like thugs or whatever, but they're kind of showing like that they care, that they want to bring him in. So I appreciated that little bit of character development.
Right.
It was at the scene where essentially they were splitting up that I was like, Stack's dead. That is a dead man walking. I could tell. I knew right from then.
You knew it was gonna be Stack?
I knew it was gonna be Stack. I did.
So like,
really.
So what clues pointed it out for you?
For me, when Smoke pretty much told Sammy, "You keep an eye on him," not really the other way around. Like he can get into some stuff. I was like, "Yep, Stack's dead. That's a dead man." But I did appreciate, like, I really thought he was gonna die before the night was over.
Yeah.
But or I guess die before they even made it to the juke joint, I should say.
Yeah.
But I appreciated that, it was just a clue that they're that close. You know what I mean? It wasn't that he was about to die right then and there.
Right.
But, they were close. It built that tension for me because I was on edge. I was like, man, this twin about to die any moment. But yeah, I liked that. I liked when we see Sammy and Stack essentially going on their own.
Yep.
I had just went to like the Nashville Museum of like Black Music, and I saw a guitar there, and it was very similar to what Sammy was playing. And it had, there's like a ring that you would wear back then when you were strumming the guitar, kind of like you have the guitar chip. It was just on the ring. And I saw it was a traditional way that they used to play it back then. So when I saw Sammy playing, I was like, oh, they really paid attention to detail. Like that's the exact type of guitar that they had in the museum from back then. So that, as a little history buff, I was like, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that scene, it kind of resonates me. It kind of reminds me like, big brother or big cousin coming up, come to pick you up. And you're like, man, it's my person I look up to. You're going to get into a little bit of trouble. And your parents is like, nah, you shouldn't be doing that. But it's like, man, you know what? You feel like you in that age, like, I'm grown now. You ain't gonna stop me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of like, I feel like every Black male probably has that kind of experience and that resonate with me a little bit. So yeah. So let's move on to so they, like you mentioned, they split their separate ways. So Stack and Sammy roll together, go their separate ways. Smoke goes his separate way. So Smoke, he rolls into town. He hires a young girl to wash his car. He enters a store to strike a business deal with a Chinese shopkeeper named Bo. While inside, he's warned that some people's trying to rob his car. Smoke shoots them both, reaffirming that he can't let someone talk about how they almost robbed the twins and don't have anything to show for it. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Smoke's my favorite one. Like, I'm rooting for Smoke. I know one of them is gonna turn, but I was hoping it wasn't gonna be Smoke, because Smoke right at that point, it was like, okay, Smoke's my favorite to win. How'd you feel?
I thought that scene was funny because he shot him and the guy's like, oh, it's you. How you been? He was like, well, I was better before you shot me.
Right.
So it added a little bit of comedy in there for me, which, was fun,
Yeah.
I like that we kind of developed Smoke a little bit as like a no nonsense type of person, but also you still see when he's seen, that has happened, he gets the guy some help. He goes to his friend in the grocery store and he's like, patch him up for me. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice little scene.
Yeah, absolutely. So he returns, as you mentioned, and successfully negotiates with Grace, which is Bo's wife, to be their supplier for their club. So they supply like alcohol, food, or whatever they need. They'll be the suppliers. I like the negotiation parts too, like how he negotiated with the girl, and then or how he told the girl like she should negotiate with him to get a better price, and he gave her a better price. And then how it showed how he actually negotiate like as an adult. So I felt like that was pretty smooth there.
Yeah, it definitely builds his character to be likable because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times you can see this character and we know he's done some bad, but when you see how he interacts, especially with the younger generation, and it's like, look, always negotiate, do this. It was definitely giving like Big Brother vibes, even to people he don't know like that, which is appreciated.
Absolutely. So then we switch over to Stack and Sammy. So Stack recruits Delta Slim, a talented but eccentric pianist. Sammy invites Caroline, a beautiful married woman, who clearly Sammy's attracted to. Stack also reconnects with Mary, which is Haley Steinfeld's character, his ex, who now passes as white.
Is white.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, she's white.
She said, "My granddaddy had."
Their reunion is tense. Mary feels betrayed by Stack for abandoning her years ago. He also brings on Cornbread, a strong field worker, as the juke joints balance. I don't know, man. Like, but she said she's like 1/6 black or something like that, right?
She said her granddaddy is half black. My granddaddy is half white. I'm not white.
But
That's the same thing, though.
I feel like if you got black in you, I feel like it's how you identify yourself, like when you go out for jobs, how you identify yourself on your driver's license and all that. I feel like
I don't know. If I walk around saying I'm white, they gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Maybe back then it was different. I wasn't there to know.
If you got some white in you, I feel like that's how you identify as, and it's like, oh, okay, I got some white in me. Like, who gonna argue that?
They gonna argue. They gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
I mean, I mean, you gonna get looks like you crazy, but you can be like, well, here's my what's that thing called? Ancestry history.
They gonna look at
History.
that. Nah, that's like when you see the little percentage point. It gonna say 10% white. They gonna be like, nah, man. We see 90% West African. Absolutely not.
Alrighty, so old wounds and supernatural warnings. So then we transition to Smoke. He goes to Annie's house, which is that's his wife, right? Estranged wife.
They kind of left it open. I knew they were together, but I wasn't sure if they were wife or if this was a long-term partner.
So their reunion is emotionally charged. Annie practices hoodoo and believes her rituals protected the twins from death and harm in Chicago. Smoke, angry and grieving, lashes out, reminding her, despite her spells, their infant daughter still died. Their marriage is fractured by grief, trauma, and conflicting beliefs in science versus spirituality. How did you feel about this scene here? Because at first it was like I couldn't tell what the relationship was at first, but then as it got on and they got it on, it was clear. But yeah, man. I think it's okay. Smoke. Like this is for sure my favorite twin. How did you feel about this scene?
This for sure. Like I like how it established Annie and her spirituality with hoodoo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it also added like depth to both characters because I see now that maybe part of the reason Smoke reaches out and is always helping kind of that younger generation is because he's lost his child. He at heart he might want to be that parental figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with Annie, I see for her, I felt for her because it's like, man, you lost your baby and then your husband gonna go with his twin up to Chicago for 7 years and kind of leave you. So I can see both of them. It seemed like they both chose to deal with that death in different ways.
Yeah.
And I really thought that their connection was the strongest in the movie for me, even more so than Stack and Mary. I thought their connection was very, very done very well.
Okay.
Not that the others were done poorly, but that one I just could feel it and I was rooting for it. I'm like, these two got to make it out together. They got to.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It kind of like shows like how his beliefs is like, man, I don't believe this stuff, and how she's like deeply invested into it. She knows for sure this it's more than just humans. It's some type of like ghosts, demons, all this other stuff. So like you could definitely tell she's gonna be the teacher as things start. But when you get to this point, you like, dang, like, oh yeah, this is a vampire movie, isn't it? Because at this point it's like you go like 30 minutes or so. You like, oh, you so invested into the story. It's just like.
It seems at the moment almost like we're strictly in like a 1930s historical drama at this point. It does not seem like there's an aspect necessarily to horror besides the beginning part with Sammy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, oh, okay. So then that's when the vampires arrive in the next part. So meanwhile, a new threat enters the picture. Vampire Remick is the one. He's on the run from like Native American vampire hunters. He violently turns two white clansmen into vampires, growing his small army. Um, the subplot introduces a dark spiritual layer to the narrative here. So how did you? So it made me ask more questions on this particular part. Like, how long has he been on a run, and how was he able to survive? During the sun.
Did you see when they had the newspapers that were showing different parts that happened before the film took place? So there was like some
Nah.
newspapers, and one of the newspapers essentially said like an immigrant ship, that was coming to the U.S., it was bloody. Like everybody in there was dead. And he's a Irish immigrant. So it is my belief that he probably was on that ship and he had already, kind of ate some people or did whatever.
Yeah.
Or either on that ship, that's where he got turned.
Okay.
So that's what I believe his origins to be. I think a lot of people have said, well, how was he running and the sun wasn't down yet? It was sunset, which I think that's good enough. I don't think it has to be like the sun completely down. It was sunset. I think he was fine. I do wonder how he had first ended up with like the Native Americans when they were chasing him, but that's a story for another time. It just was very interesting. I like.
So you confused on that part then too.
It's not a confusion. It's more so I want to know like that story. I would actually watch a movie with them, these different groups, kind of dealing with those, because I felt that their like group kind of vampire hunting them was very interesting. I really like his character, quite honestly. I thought he was a very interesting character as a villain. Ryan Coogler don't mess with villain characters. He doesn't.
Okay. So opening night at the juke joint. So the juke joint finally opens. We're filled with excitement, energy. Sammy's performance is electric, unlike anything anyone has ever heard. His blues music taps into something spiritual and otherworldly, summoning the presence of ancestral spirits of those yet to be born. The crowd is in trance. It's a moment of cultural power and mystical transcendence. So how did you feel about this? Now this part was pretty nice here, the way it was shot and everything. So how did you feel about this particular scene right here? What did you get from it?
It's scenes like this that makes me like be like, I gotta step my game up. Like this is amazing. Like watching this, it just was so, well, first as a culture, watching this and seeing like them integrate, okay, these are the beginning types of dances that we had, in Black culture. And then it shows you what they're doing presently in 1930s. But then it moves time forward and it shows also like dances that we do today, dances from the 80s. And you see them all moving around in the room, and I was like, sitting there just like understanding fully. Like usually this might be where if you don't do it right, where you start to lose the audience, where they're like, can they see them or not? But this was done so well. And even the music, like hats off to the person who does the music. Like they integrated like some of the 80s sounds you would hear into that 1930s thing. Some of the new school, some of the old school drums and stuff. It was just done incredibly well. And that's a scene that I would go back to and just watch to study.
Yeah. I need to go back and watch that scene because it's just like I'm trying to interpret that scene, and me seeing the movie once, it's like I gotta go back to see what I'm getting from that. Like when you see, because the way I'm interpreting it's like secular music in a way where it's just like, okay, these are, I don't know if I want to paint it. I don't want to sound like the preacher. But I don't know if this is like in a negative way, like okay, this is like having like influence on us as a culture. And you see like the DJ, it was a girl twerking in there. Wasn't she? Okay.
It was.
Yeah, it was. You saw that. It's just like, dang, like although the music sounds good, but what is it?
For me, I saw it as a positive thing. This is like his music. This is really when the veil is opening because his music was that good. And because the veil opened, you start to see music from the past and music from the present, coming in and dancing to a similar song just for their generation. And I thought it was beautiful because it shows all the different types of dances and music that we as a diaspora of Black people have done over the years up until now. So for me, I think it was more of a beautiful thing. Like I know some people might be like, well, you had a girl twerking in there, that ain't really like that. But even twerking, like it did come from, I believe, Caribbean culture. I think they call it winding, and it's like, that is
Well,
a
why
part
not
of it
walk it
too.
out, or why not do the Running Man or
I
something
think
like
all
that,
of
or the
it,
Harlem Shake or something,
I
or
think
even
we need to
Sleepwalking or
not be
something.
ashamed of the different
Yeah.
types of things that we bring. All of it is Black culture.
Mm.
All of it, I feel like we could make a case for, like, look at the blues back then. It was seen as what twerking probably could be seen
Yeah.
as now, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like, all of it
Right.
has a place and a time to be done. And years from now, our grandkids might be like, it's just twerking,
Right. But that music, it draws in Remick, who appears at the door with his vampires. He offers money in exchange for, to go inside. The twins sense that something's wrong, and they deny him and the other two from coming in. So that's why I kind of like got from that, where it's just like, okay, are they trying to say like this music right here, like as the preacher says, the devil, and it brought Remick, and Remick was drawn towards it. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm kind of like, so is he trying to say like this music is negative? You know what I mean?
No, I
But-
think it's one of those things where that music is so powerful, and I think that can be true for any genre of music. I think honestly, even what they could have been doing a gospel music. He could have been singing a gospel song, and the spirit probably still would have came because it heard his voice and what they did.
Canceled.
I mean, that's the
Gotta
truth.
get
I think it
canceled
can be any genre, quite honestly, that you could sing in this particular story. And that people would, spirits would come and they would listen to it. And you have the good spirits. And unfortunately, you got the bad spirits. And this bad spirit, which we can talk about if he's bad or not, there's a conversation to be had.
Hold on. Talk about who's bad or not. Remick?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can when we get there.
Okay.
Because you'll see what I mean.
All right.
But essentially, he comes in because he hears that music and he knows that with that boy's power, that he can see his ancestors, and that's kind of what he's wanting. That's what he's trying to do, trying to get to him so that he can get to his ancestors and hear that type of music again. So for me, it's not saying that it's bad. It's saying that, the music in general is just powerful. Our music, the things that we make, we are powerful as a Black people.
So was Remick, was Remick trying to say he was Black?
No.
Okay. Because I was doing some research and some said that like it was hinting that he was Black in a past life and he's trying to get back to that. So
I never got that. I got more of, when we look at history, we know that Irish people who immigrated over here were not seen as white. They were seen as immigrants. Well, honestly, they were seen how immigrants today are seen who are not white. So they were usually talked about. They were usually treated bad. Some of them even lynched. And so they could connect to the experience of Black people back then. We know that that's not necessarily the case now. If you're white, you're white. But back then, that just wasn't the case. So I think he was trying to connect to them on a sense of, look, we're both outcasts. And I can help you get back at people because that's what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? I think that's how he was trying to appeal to them. But there's a conversation to be had if he would have really helped them or if this was for his own selfish needs.
So vampires strike from within. Mary, still hurt and feeling abandoned by Stag, meets with Remick outside. He turns her into a vampire. She returns, seduces Stag, and bites him. Smoke shoots her, but the bullets have no effect. She's fully turned into a vampire at this point. So meanwhile, Cornbread is attacked in the woods, and he's also turned. The vampires begin infiltrating and turning the guests as they leave the bar into vampires. Even Bo is turned into a vampire, which is the Chinese guy. Panic sets in. The juke joint is no longer safe, and the survivors must arm themselves and prepare. So, how did you feel about this particular things that were going on during this situation?
So for me, as I said, like Stag's death, that was brutal.
Yeah.
When he all of a sudden wakes up and Annie's like, "Don't you open that door?"
Right.
And Smoke rightfully, so is like, "But that's my brother. He says he's okay."
Yeah.
All of that was acted out really well. I felt for each of the characters, and I understood where they were coming from. I also felt for the Asian woman's family, because she's like, "Oh, but I gotta go out there. I'm the reason he went out there in the first place. I gotta make sure he's okay."
Yeah.
Cornbread scene, my theater was acting out. When he went to use the bathroom, they were like, "Why would you go alone? Why are you out there? Run, get out of there." They were acting up, and it was funny. But
nice.
I liked Cornbread.
Yeah, it's my boy from he was from 8 Mile, right?
I think he was from that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I like this particular part. Like they were shooting at Haley Steinfeld's character Mary, and she got up through. So they were shooting at her, and then they thought they were. She thought they was like ghost or something at first, right? She thought she was a ghost, and then when Karen Bray said, "Hey, man, come in, let me in," it was like, "Nah, like why don't you walk your big ass up in here?" So
They were really funny for these parts. Like they really were just like making fun of each other in, you know, a lighthearted way, but it was still funny, you know, to kind of break the tension. And I like when horror movies can have like those funny aspects in them.
Right. So Remix offering Grace's fatal mistake. So with the juke joint with the juke joint protected because they're not letting him come in, Remix stands outside and tries to negotiate. He flatters Sammy, calling him a vessel of power. Remy makes a pitch. Vampirism means immortality, power, and freedom from racism. He wants Sammy to use his gift to summon the spirits from of his own lost community. What did you feel about this particular scene here?
So this is when I started to really like Remick a little bit more because well, here's my thing. As I like him as a villain. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody should run to him and be vampires and be like, come on in. No. But as a villain, I really liked what was done here because I can understand where some Black people might go like, you know, he got a point. Immortality. I can get back at racists. I can, you know, go bite people who might mess with me. But I also like how he tries to connect to the Black people like, look, I'm an immigrant. Like, I understand what you're going through. They're being racist to me too. And I thought that that was a brilliant way for them to kind of play on this character to be likable to some of the people. Because some of them were sitting there like, well, he's got a point.
Yeah.
And I think that this was done very well. Because usually, you know, when you have a villain like this, it's a simple, no, I'm not going out there. No, you can't come in. But he was really kind of speaking to them. He was also a little mischievous because what he told the Asian woman in Mandarin, I was like, bruh, you doing too much. That's evil.
Hold on, what did you say?
He was like talking about him and Bo were one now. Like he knew everything Bo knew. He was like, I can even lick you like Bo. And I was like, this man evil. Right. But that's what I mean. Like,
see,
he's an evil person that you like to like because I just feel like you like to like him because he has like that evilness in him to, you know, make you kind of giggle a little bit and be like, man, that's diabolical. But also,
does your boyfriend watch this?
Huh?
Does your boyfriend watch this?
Yeah.
You over here talking about you like him after you talking about licking up? See, hey, please. Bro.
No, we was both cackling in the movie theater when he said that. He was like, absolutely not. But no, it's just that evilness there, but also the way he's like charming enough to be like, look, I can relate to you. It's the fact that he told Smoke that the racists were going to be coming the next day, because that's a big part of the story. He said to Smoke that the people who sold you this house are racist. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I got the niece and nephew right here, and they were going to all come up and shoot you up tomorrow. And the fact that he tells him that, you know, for me, that was like a, is this true or is he messing with him? Because if it's true, he's seeming like an ally, and I might understand if a person were to be like, hey, maybe this guy really is on our side. Now, I wouldn't do it, but for storytelling purposes, I understand why a character might think that.
Yeah.
So that's why I like him as a villain. Like, he's a very well done villain.
Okay. Yeah, so as you mentioned, so he was talking to Grace in Mandarin, and then they started threatening Grace's daughter. Threatening Grace's daughter, and she's like, "Man, nah, I ain't gonna go out like that." So, Grace says, "You know what? Come on on in." And she was ready to drop him, and she got dropped with the quickness. So the barrier drops and chaos erupts. So how did you feel about, so how was your movie theater acting when Grace invited them in? Like,
they was acting out. They was pissed when she said, "Come on in." They was like, "No," and somebody was like, "This is why you don't invite everybody to the cookout." It was funny, and I thought that they did her character well too, because I think I could understand why somebody who's worried about, you know, the husband and the daughter that she had might be like, no, I need to get to them. He's threatening that he's going to go to my daughter's house if I don't let him in. And I think a lot of parents would be like, I want my kid to live. If it
Yeah.
means that I have to die, then so be it. I need them to live.
Yeah.
And so I understood her character. I wasn't pissed off. I think they
Mhm.
were all between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
But I was still like, man, I didn't want them to come in. It's too many of them. But besides that, when they do start coming in and everything, I really thought she was going to do more damage than she did. Because she had the little, like, wine bottle that she set on fire. She throws it. They just swatted it away. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, man. I went to a 3 p.m. IMAX show, so on a Thursday. So it was nothing but like I was by myself and a whole bunch of other people by themselves. So it was nothing but like creepers with beepers. You know what I mean? It's just people just like it was not, just really watching the movie, no reaction for real. You know what I mean? So that's why I was curious when you said they was talking about why would you go to the bathroom by yourself? I should have went to a theater like that, but
It has its pros and cons because this is the same theater where the dude pulled out the chicken wings and his
oh
flashlight.
yeah, I can't go.
So I didn't know what to expect. I did go a little earlier this time than I did last time, and I think
Mhm.
that helps. But they were acting pretty good. They were a little funny this time, but they were acting
Yeah.
good.
All right, so we get to the final battle. So a vicious fight breaks out. Grace, Annie, and Delta Slim are killed. They're out the game. We're smoking on that Grace pack, smoking on that Annie pack, smoking on that Delta Slim pack. What's his name? Lando. What's his first name?
Delroy
Delroy
Lindo. Yeah, Delroy
Man.
Lindo.
Got my boy
I
up
want to
outta
give
here.
compliments to him. His character, although we didn't talk about him a lot,
Yeah.
was funny, likable. I thought it was hilarious when they was getting everybody to eat a clove of garlic, and he just started like acting like he having a seizure, and then he's like, "My bad, I just drank too much." Like that had me.
Hey
weak.
man, they did my boy so wrong, bro. The dude that was passed out.
Yeah,
They did him. Hey, but I like that scene because I was like, oh snap,
Mhm.
this is turned into a murder mystery. This was like, oh okay. And it turns out my boy was just passed out, and they kicked him out, and they got him turned into a vampire. And then he's like, so are we sure that was just blood? Man, that was Saudi. I'm sorry for my boy, man. They did him wrong.
They got little moments that we won't hit on that were still just golden, like little
Yeah.
golden nuggets.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to him. He did great in this role.
Absolutely. So Smoke, Sammy, and Pearline try to escape, but Remick and now Vampire Stack ambush them. Brothers become enemies. They start duking it out.
I'm gonna say shout out to Pearline. I didn't think she'd be able to fight, but she was really like duking some vampires. Like I was surprised. I was like, Pearline, you can fight like this? I was pleasantly surprised.
Hey.
I had her low on the totem pole. I thought she'd be gone first.
Hey, you would have know would have turned it up a notch if they would have played Nuck If You Buck. during the
Why
fights.
would you? No.
I'm telling you.
They
like,
gonna have to make it a 1930s version.
Man, they would. All right, yeah, that'd been hard. They should have did that.
Should have did it with like the violin and stuff or the
Right.
guitar.
Just play the beat. You know what I mean? Like just play it. Yeah. But Stack and Smoke fight emotionally, violently. Pearline is bitten with her dying breath, urges Sammy to flee. Sammy doesn't want to abandon her, but he must. Did we talk about?
We ain't talk about Sammy and Pearline.
No, we ain't talking about. Okay, hold on. I just brushed over Annie's death. So let's talk about Annie's death real quick. My bad. Let me run that on back. So before they start fighting, Annie tells Smoke, "Hey, if I should turn, like if I should get bit, like make sure you kill me before I turn." And then that's your part right there. That's where you just like that hit for you. So like let's talk about that a little bit more.
I think for me, it was her being like, you got to kill me. I don't want to be this vampire, which I understand. But, he's like, I can't do that. And she's like, it's okay. And when she says, like, she has somebody waiting on her talking about the baby, for me, that just hit. Because it's just like, I understand what she means. That must be, like, such a hard thing to, like, really sit there and realize, like, there's a chance I might die. But, a thing to comfort you is that you will be reunited with your child. Like, that must have been a hard thing, just to lose that child in the first place. But also when he does, eventually she gets bit and he has to kill her. It is one of those things that's sad because he's losing basically his entire family this entire movie.
Because that part, that would cause, so once she dies, that causes Haley Steinfeld's character to like flee and run, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. So like, I was kind of like, because I didn't think they were still intact, like with themselves, because she said something like once they become vampires, it's something about their soul or something like that. Like I just thought they were soulless, so I thought it really didn't affect them, but they're still in there somehow, some way. Which conflicts me because, well, I guess never mind, because they really wanted to turn Smoke into a vampire. I guess to be like them.
I think
I
they
don't know.
still have a piece of themselves. It's just most of them were being controlled by Remick. But I think, and we'll get to it, when Remick's gone, I think that also helps them to fully kind of just be their own self, if that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense.
That's how I read into it.
All right, so so in the final act, Sammy smashes the guitar over Remick's head. Smoke gets the best of Stack, and Smoke somehow, some way goes through hundreds of vampires and stabs Remick in the heart with a stake, killing him just as Dawn breaks and incinerates the rest of the vampire herd. All right. How did you feel about this part?
Okay, so for me, Remick was definitely talking too much because he really could have killed Sammy and it'd been over. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we know for movie reasons that they always draw this part out a little bit.
Yep.
Now, originally watching it and seeing that Smoke just made it past all these vampires somehow, it was like, how? And you got to jump out the building. The building is on fire. But then knowing that Stack is still actually alive, he did not kill him. I was like, it was probably something Stack did to help him get there. Like, my brain was like, that makes more sense. If Stack's alive, he probably did help him get to him. That was probably part of the deal. Like, all right, fine. I will not kill you, but we got to keep Sammy alive. You don't touch him. You help me get to him. I think that was probably part of the deal.
That's what makes you like make it make sense in your head.
That's what in my head. Yes, I'm not saying that's what the person thought, but in my head, that's
how is he getting the best of Stack? Stack is a vampire. It's a vampire. This dude can levitate. They can fly. So they don't have the super. So now I'm going back and I'm thinking about a little bit.
It's a baby vampire, to be fair. Like, I don't think it's a baby vampire. He just turned to a vampire like an hour ago. I don't think he knows all the tricks that like Remick knows. Like, when we go to the 90s, he might know all that stuff now. But to be fair, the only one that was really flying and levitating was Remick. Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought Haley Steinfeld was in there flying too.
I don't remember her flying, but maybe
somebody else was flying. For sure. Nah.
Well, I think either way, I think that there's a debate to be made of how he got there. We know what movies do. They always try to do that last second savior thing.
Man, that makes no. And then like how many people, so it was 7 survivors, right? That was left. How many people was left when they started fighting? It wasn't that much.
It was, let's see. There was Slim, Pearline, Sammy, brother Annie,
yeah, so it was Grace,
Annie,
Delta Slim, and then we had
Mary, Smoke, Sammy, Pearline.
And then we had Sammy. So that's 4. And then we had Smoke. That's 5.
Did you count Pearline?
6.
Yeah, so there's 6. Now to be
fair. So
it's
a 6 versus 100 and they vampires.
To be fair, it didn't seem like there was 100. There was a good like 20 to 30.
Nah.
But I do think that these vampires.
It was a good like.
I do think these vampires are not as strong as we picture vampires to typically be.
Okay.
Because number one, I felt like if the Native Americans were causing this man to be that scared, they definitely had something on him. I think it's the fact that the vampires usually have the element of surprise on their side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you prepare for them, maybe it is a closer thing to fight. And we don't technically know all of their powers. So we can't really say that Stack's supposed to be stronger than Smoke. We don't know.
What they say? They had garlic. Mm-hmm. They had silver, right?
Yeah, like a silver stake.
Yeah, and they had the stakes, wooden stakes. That sounds like a traditional vampire to me.
Well, a lot of people actually don't know, like, you have to be invited to go in. Like, they left that part out for vampires when they were doing Twilight and stuff. So I think there's some that's traditional, but I think if we were to really sit down and, like, ask, when they were making the characters for this vampire what their powers were, we might be surprised by what they can do. I don't usually see vampires jumping the way that man was jumping either.
All right, so I don't know, man. I had regular TV growing up, so I caught a few seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's similarities to me
That was
on them.
before my time.
But there's similarities. So I knew like that part where it's just like, oh, I can't like they when he wasn't coming in, like oh, it's like I caught on to that. Like you gotta be invited to come in. Like okay. So it's not like traditional vampire. So they should have had that superhuman strength. That's the only part that I didn't get and how you was able to get through 100 vampires and stab on the stake.
They
for the
definitely
heart.
didn't seem like they had that like superhero strength. It feels like that aspect they were still just normal.
What about like when I know you don't have a rebuttal for this. But what about when my boy from A Mile was eating that one dude up?
Oh, I mean, there was nothing really to that. He was eating them up.
So like, you don't think this like super strength had nothing to do with that?
No, first of all, that's a big man. Like,
I knew you was gonna say that.
I'm
That's why I was
sorry. Like, it probably was like a simple, I got you.
all right, so let's get to Smoke's final stand and Sammy's survival. So Smoke, bloody and fading, confronts Hogwarts and the clan who plan to burn up the juke joint. In the final act of vengeance and defiance, Smoke kills them all, but is fatally wounded and he dies. He sees a vision of Annie and their daughter welcome him to the afterlife. Finally, he's at peace. So this is the part where I was just like, bruh, like I was like, okay, go ahead then, get your revenge, because I did the same thing. But I ain't like that he ended up going out. You know what I mean? That kind of like, dang, bro, that's how you gonna kill him off. But what did you feel?
I think for me, I wasn't expecting this part of the movie. Like, I thought once, they were walking away from the vampires, we were going to cut right back to that church scene.
Right.
And when we cut to this, at first when I see him grabbing the gun, I was like, oh, he going to commit suicide. And then I saw that he was actually coming after the supremacists. And I was happy we did this scene because serves them right. They're supremacists and they were trying to kill him. It also verifies that Remick was telling the truth. Like, these men were coming after you. He was trustworthy, at least in that sense.
Right.
I do think it's unrealistic to let Smoke get through the vampires and let him get through the white supremacists. One or the other was supposed to get him, and this is the one that got him.
Yeah, so he can survive through hundreds of vampires, but can't handle 20 racists.
I mean, it was guns being shot. The vampires didn't have guns. I think personally, in my headcanon, Stack somehow helped him to get to Sammy. That's the only reasonable explanation. As for this, I think there was just too many guns, too many white supremacists shooting him up. But I did like the scene of him.
I need a director's cut. I need some answers. I need some of these questions answered.
But I do like the scene of him kind of seeing Annie and their kid, as he's about to cross over to the afterlife.
Alrighty, so returning where we started, so we're now like where the beginning of the movie's at. So we see Sammy returns to his father's church. His father begs him to renounce music and seek salvation, but Sammy refuses. Bruised up with his guitar in hand and pain in his eyes, he walks away.
I was happy for this scene because
that was dumb.
No. I know what you're gonna say, but I was sitting here and I was like, oh no, is this gonna be one of those movies that reinforces that the blues is bad or something like that, and he just has to be a preacher, his entire life after that, because that's kind of depressing. And when I saw him walk away, it was like, okay, this isn't a typical ending. I like that we went non-traditional. Now, is he stupid after all he went through to still keep playing the blues? Yes. You could argue, yes, he is stupid. I probably would have stayed in the church after that too. However, I like that it was not traditional. I like that was something unique and it did not reinforce the lesson that most movies will do with that. So that's why I liked it.
Cool. Yeah, that was just like. So how did your theater react to that? Were they just like, oh yeah, or they like, man?
Some people really did say, oh, this man's stupid, and they ain't use the word man.
What word did they use?
They used the N-word.
All right, so let's get to the post credit scene, if you want to call it that. So we're back in present day, and elderly Sammy. So we're kind of like we're in the 1990s at this point. So not in present day, but a little bit close to it. So elderly Sammy is living in Chicago, celebrated musician, and then all of a sudden, Stack and Mary come and pay him a visit. So Stack reveals that Smoke didn't kill him that night, and spared him, and asking only to spare Sammy, who was left, and leave him in peace. So when you saw this, what was your thoughts? When you saw, so was you expecting? Were you expecting
I'll say this.
Stack to
At
come
first,
in?
I
Or
did not think that Stack was dead because always show the death, right? But
right,
when the
right,
credits started rolling, I was like, oh, wow. I guess they really did kill him.
right.
And then I see this post-credit scene. I'm like, oh, okay, there it is. He
Yeah.
didn't kill him, just like I thought. But okay. So I thought this was cool that they came in, they had this conversation. We got to see Sammy, you know, how he ended up when he left. You know, it was kind of like, okay, he became this big blues musician and it was happy for him. Good.
Yeah.
I was worried Stack was gonna be like, look, it's been 80 years. I'm gonna just turn you now. But I like that he was polite
Right.
enough to ask him and, you know, be like, are you still sure? All right, I'll leave you alone. I also like that, you know, they kind of had the line in there where they're like, we got every album you did. You know, I thought that
Yeah.
was so sweet.
I don't know. I was expecting an old man Smoke to come in, man, or something. Like I was definitely expecting, like, okay, he saw the vision, but still had some more time left on his earth. So like I don't know, man. I feel some kind of type of way about how
But they
Smoke.
can't both still somehow be alive.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. I guess that makes sense. So as you mentioned, so they do offer Sammy the chance to become immortal, just like them, but he declines. Sammy still carries emotional scars from that night, yet views it as the greatest day of his life. A moment when everything, like pain, beauty, freedom, they all came together. He plays his final song. Stack agrees. It was the last time he saw his brother, so it was also, he said that's the last, you know, one of the greatest nights of his life as well. The last time he saw the sun, and the last time he ever felt free. Yeah, man, that was I don't know. At this point, kind of like lost a few points for me. At this point, I ain't gonna lie.
No, I liked that scene. I felt like this was all done very well for me. Like it definitely would get 10 out of 10 ices for me. I really enjoyed it. It was different. And, you know, even though some of the people I liked died, it was something
Yeah,
where it's like I know everybody can't live realistically.
right. That Coogee sweater was hard though. That he had,
hmm
yeah, with the fade and all that. That was up. Yeah, so that was Sinners, man. It was a pretty good movie. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. It was pretty good movie. So what did you feel about like the different aspect ratios? What did you get from that? Cause I was like, why would they change the aspect
hmm
ratios in this particular part, change it back, go back and forth? What was that trying to indicate? Do you know?
I'm not sure. It's something that I would want to like watch again, you know, where I already know the story. So I can be like, okay, he switches to this ratio when
Hmm.
like this scene happens. What does that
Yeah.
mean? Is there a pattern? Does he only do it for scenes where the vampires are here or only for the
Mm.
scenes where something's happy? I
Yeah.
really need to go back and really like just take that in
Yeah.
when I'm not thinking about, you know, the stories and the plot lines. But I
Right.
thought that was an interesting choice. And I thought that, like, that's something that I would consider, you know, in the future. Like, okay, he did it and it looks cool. It doesn't look a mess. Like, I wonder
Yeah.
how I could incorporate that or if other people that I don't know have tried to do that before.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I went to IMAX. You said you went to a standard show. So I think I want to go see a standard show just to see the difference. I probably need to do it while it's still fresh. Um, but I'm curious to see like was there a big difference or could you not really tell for real? Um, yeah, I think that's something that we should look into.
Definitely. I wanted to go back and see the IMAX one,
Yeah.
especially there was just certain scenes, like the scene we were talking about where the different generations of like black music came in.
Yeah.
I was like, that must look really cool on IMAX. Like, I'll have to get that a shot.
Yeah. So I don't want to ask you that question yet. All right. So standout acting moments? What would you say is the most standout acting moment for you?
Well, Miles himself was a standout. I thought he did amazing. I think he's only like 20 years old. And I was like, he did great for this role. Both the singing, the, you know, looking frazzled or whatever you want to call it when he's coming
Yeah.
back in the church. Cause I really did think he was about to dead that man. And I think just, you know, kind of acting like that little brother, you know,
Yeah.
to them. I think Michael B. Jordan was excellent presenting two characters who, you know, at first look, you might think they're similar, but they have quite different personalities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. For
he
sure.
was able to portray that brilliantly with both of them.
Yeah.
I think that
Cause I wasn't lost. I was like, okay, that's Smoke.
Yeah.
That's Smoke. Even though they look, identical, you were still able to tell like
Smoke
who
definitely
was
had
who.
that more like strict personality,
Mhm.
while Stack, he could be chill at times. He seemed like he'd be kind of what people would probably call like the fun or irresponsible twin, while the other one's more strict and like,
Okay.
no, we're gonna do this way, my way or the highway.
I can see that.
I think Annie had a standout moment where like she points out, oh, you don't believe in my magic, but you have the little necklace he had on and stuff. I think that was a really well
Bro,
done
what does
scene.
Haley Seinfeld say?
Oh my gosh.
What she say? You scared of something, but you scared to get this cat, or what
That
I'm
was
say.
that was funny. That's when I was really looking at her like, who is this?
Now I was trying to find that quote, and I couldn't find it for nothing. Dang. That's why I need to go see it again. But alrighty. So, what did you feel about the direction and visual choices in this movie?
I thought the direction was amazing. I really would love to see, like you said, a director's cut or somebody sitting there
Yeah.
explaining different choices, because I would just like to study it. I think cinematically, like, that's another thing I'd have to study. Like, why were we switching, aspect ratios? Why were we choosing, certain lenses or certain, things that were close-ups versus far away?
Right.
How did we coordinate certain scenes like the one I told you about in the beginning where it was the two Michael B. Jordans? How did we film that? How did you guys, why did you choose that way instead of, we know there's multiple ways you can do it? How did we do the scene with all the different Black cultures like coming in? I heard that part of that was like a continuous shot. And I'm like, how we do it? That seems super cool.
Right. So horror elements, did they land it?
I think it was good. I think like there were definitely parts that was scary. Is it going to be the scariest movie you've ever seen? No, unless you're Black, quite honestly. There's some racist horror elements to it that's kind of scary. Not the traditional horror, but yeah, I think for a, horror movie that blends different genres, this was done very well. It's a different type of vampire movie. I was taking my boyfriend to see. He's like, I don't like vampire movies. Like, I'm all vampired out. And he said this was very well done. Like, he was surprised that he liked it. It was not what he expected.
Because it don't really feel like a vampire movie.
It doesn't.
It feel like you can throw in some racists in there, you know what I mean, and replace the vampires with racists, and then you could still get, I don't want to say you still get the same movie, but you would still, you know what I mean?
It will be similar in aspects.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the music and the sound design. How do you feel like it carried the soul in this film?
So I learned that Ryan Coogler works with a specific like person for the what's it called? The person who does the music, essentially, the composition.
Okay.
So he works with that person in multiple things that he has done. And I'm like, oh, so it's like kind of that relationship he has with Michael B. Jordan. And I think him like working with him was why the sound design was so good, because they have that like that relationship already where he can kind of describe what he's looking for and tell him what to blend together. And I think that's why like one of the best music choices is going to be that scene with all the different cultures, because they were really, you have to mix that in perfectly so it doesn't sound a hot mess. So for them to add in like that 1980s style sound and then add in West African drums, from before any of us was thought of, and to blend in, present day music from the 2020s, like that's an amazing amount of sound design. And honestly, he should be nominated for an Oscar too, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah, the music was on point, man. Like I told you, the only thing I can knock him for is during that vampire scene. I'm telling you, if you throw in that nuck, if you buck, if he's playing on a guitar, playing on, like you said, a violin, playing on a sax or the piano or something, just throw that in there a little bit. It probably would, if this movie was a 99, made it 100. What you think?
I mean, I'd have to see it, because part of me wonders if I'd even be able to take that seriously. But I will say, when Remick and his two little side partners first come and they singing their little folk song, trying to convince them to let them in, I was dying in the theater, because that song was funny, because they singing rhythm and blues. He's sitting over here. What was they saying? Like pig pull riding.
Bluegrass or something like
it was
that.
like bluegrass. I was like, this is hilarious. Y'all are not getting into the club.
Crazy. All right, so let's do a rating. So let's do like a 5-point criteria for this. So like story and structure, what would you rate it?
I'm going to give it, I would say, because, people can get mad about like the ending, like how did you get there and stuff like that. And your head canon has to do a little something. I will give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay. 4.5. I'll give it a, because it's original. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
original story. You don't get a lot of originality, and it was good too. So I'll give it a 5. Even though I don't really like the ending for real, like I'll still give it a 5 just because it's original and it's not a lot. You
Originality's
get,
lacking these days.
yeah. So character development, what would you give it?
That's a 5 for me. For
Yeah.
all the characters, they did great.
Yep, 5 for me too. Okay, so let's talk about themes and messaging. What would you rank it?
This is easily a 5. There are so
A
many think
5.
pieces that are going around about the themes and the messaging, and people being like, you better understand what this means, or some of y'all not smart enough to understand that this means this. And if your movie or your art can get people to talking like that and really analyzing different themes and messaging from it,
Yeah.
then I think that's a 5 out of 5 easily. Because not a lot of movies can do that. I couldn't do that with the woman in the yard or whatever.
Let's not even talk about that. That bait and switch film. I'll give it a 3. It's just
Really?
it's too much. Like I mentioned, like man, it's too many questions to it's too much. Like to me, I'm still a little bit confused on some things. So that's why I'll give it.
So you want something where you immediately walk out and understand, and you don't let it like marinate and be like, I gotta read up on this, or I gotta like
see, that's the
do
thing,
research
and
and stuff.
it didn't make me want to read up on it. It made me just want to say, you know what, maybe I missed something. I'll go see it again. But it wasn't like, man, I really gotta go, because there's certain things like when you watch television and stuff like that. Like I watched a series called From, and I'm like, yo, like
I've heard that's good.
yeah, it's real good. So I'm like, yo, like I'll go to reviews, I'll go check in. It didn't make me want to do that. It made me say, I would watch the movie again, but it didn't make me want to go like, let me look more into this, let me look more into that. And it could be because it sounds like I might contradict myself, but maybe because it is like more of a supernatural movie for real.
No, there's so much.
But
I recently saw like somebody talking about that each of the characters represents the 7 deadly sins. And when I saw them saying which characters meant which, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that works, that checks out. I can see that. So I don't know. I think there can be different things in messaging. Because when I saw that, I really was like, man, I can see that. Because this character, like Remick, he represents like, kind of that envy, jealousy and stuff.
Do you think that's part of what he was doing, or you think it was just so coincidentally
I think some of it's coincidental.
Yeah.
I think like coincidence like that can happen, but also I would never doubt Ryan Coogler. Like that might have been intentions, but I think some of it definitely sometimes is coincidence that stuff falls like that.
I think that's reach. I think Ryan Coogler probably. I watched a few of his interviews, and I don't remember him saying anything about 7 deadly sins. But I mean, I don't know. I didn't get that, but
Well, it's just when the person said it, like it fits into there. I'm like, it does. Like whether it's coincident or not, like it's pretty cool that it works that way, and it does have elements from like the Christian church in there. So that's why I thought it was cool.
okay. Let's talk about the visuals and atmosphere. What would you give it?
Visuals for me was a 5. I was impressed all the way around.
I'll give it a 4.5. I feel like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I feel like some of the scenes was a little bit dark to me. I mean, I know it's a vampire movie.
I don't know. After watching Game of Thrones, I can't complain about the darkness in this one.
Yeah, that Ice King fight was crazy.
Yeah. I was looking at myself in the screen.
You ain't lying. This was making it funny. Okay, so originality and impact for me is a 5.
That's a 5. There's nothing like this. Nothing.
All right. So we'll definitely. So total score, what would you like? What would you give it? 5 out of 5, or
If I'm doing overall, I think this does get a 5 out of 5 for me. Like,
really?
I think this did so many great things. And as a Black person that loves horror and also loves to sometimes bend, different types of genres together, this was everything to me. This put Ryan Coogler, I feel like, in my number 1 spot for director. Like, I'm watching constantly, like, a lot of things that he's doing. Like, he's an inspiration, and I felt like I will go back and I will continue to watch this movie, or I'll, like, encourage, people to watch it. So for me, this was just really, really well done for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of debating if I want to rate it if I want to rate it a 4.5 or a 4. But I'm gonna go by based on my numbers here and give it a 4.5. I think that makes the most sense. So, would this be a movie that you would recommend?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely recommend people to watch it. I recommend people to watch it, and then I'll ask questions like, what did you get from it? Like, how did you interpret the film? Because like the way I interpret the film might be different from how you interpret the film. So it's one of those films where it's just like, okay, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? After you watch it. So, did the vampires represent something deeper to you? Would you say?
I think if we want to go all English teacher, we can say that they could represent different things.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I'm going to take it at face value of like, you know, this is, you know, a supernatural being that's offering immortality, you know, in a world that honestly was not very polite to Black people or immigrants. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think the most philosophical I'll get on you is saying that in a way, the vampires does represent, like, some people might say they're allies, but do they really have your best interest at heart? Because I
Right.
do think he did present as an ally, and I would understand if some people thought why, because he did warn him about them white supremacists.
Right.
But did he truly have his best, you know, interest at heart? Probably not. I'm going to say no. Some people might think, oh, well, you know, Stack's okay, so, you know, it's up to you to decide. I'm going to say no, though.
Okay. Do you think Sammy made the right choice by like, you know what, I'm gonna still play these my music. Forget what you talking about. Even though I had the worst night of my life, I'ma still thug it out and just, you know what, live and play this until I'm old. So do you think he made the right choice, or what's your thoughts?
This is difficult. I'm not gonna lie. If I found out the reason vampires came is because I was that good of a singer, I probably just would never sing again.
Yeah, that's selfish.
I don't think I would have did it because I would have been too scared. But what do I know? He made probably millions off of this. Shout out to the actor who plays older Sammy, or I guess not actor, but actual musician, Buddy Guy. Because that was cool that they got him to, you know, play that and to make up his face kind of to look like Sammy when he gets those cuts. That was another
Yeah.
thing, a little Easter egg that I liked.
So do you think it has a deeper meaning for selling your soul? Like at all, like no
I
matter
could
what the
see that
cost?
as like a theme. I didn't see that originally, but now that you
Yeah.
say it, like I could see that being something where it's like everybody got a price, you know?
Right. So what would you have done if Remick offered you immortality?
No. For me, it's a no unless there's really like no other way. Like if I'm surrounded by all of them like Sammy was, there's no
Right.
point in fighting. It's like, all right, I guess I'll do it. But if I was in the house, I would have simply been in the house until the sunlight came up.
Right. Yeah, man, it's a no for me too. It's just like Andy said, like you're not 100% yourself. You know, you feel like you probably trapped. Your soul is trapped inside your body, but somebody else is like taking over it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a no for me too. All right. Is there anything else you want to tell the people about the movie? How you felt before we wrap up?
I'll be looking forward to my slushies next year.
I'm telling you.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I
nah.
owe you slushies. I will say that
Yeah,
because
me too.
everybody who is involved with this deserves, in my opinion, right now, best picture, best direction, best sound design, some best actor awards. But I know how they be doing movies like this and my people. And I don't know. I really hope I'm wrong.
You see how many 10 slushies again?
We said 5.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. Alrighty, so if you want to see more videos like this one, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And remember, always stay fly, stay humble, and stay fresh. Peace.
I did it this time.
You did it this time, but I see you messed it up though. You messed it up.
Okay, at least I did it though.
All right, y'all, we out.